Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Mexi here once again, and I am back for the likes of the Mexi Toys videos. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Donkey Kong 64 for the Nintendo 64. So, last time we have pretty much completed everything in terms of Crystal Caves by not only trying to able to grab more golden bananas, but also we take on the 6th boss in the game, which appears to be a rematch against with the forms of Armadillo. And in addition to that, we also finally managed able to wrap things up everything in terms of Fungi Forest due to the forms of the second rabbit race, thanks to the forms of, you know, Lanky Kong's Orangutan sprint of any sorts. So today for this video is about the fact the matter is though, we are about to be exploring onto the next world, which is known as Creepy Castle. So, and I think this is the only world I'm actually really looking forward to, because I've heard some good things about this world, while at the same time though, it does bring us some very annoying moments here and there, which you probably already know what this is going to be happening, until whenever we do somehow manage able to explore the rest of the Creepy Castle. So as a result, I think relatively speaking, this is actually technically is the final exploration type of world, because the next world after this though, well, I'm pretty sure it's nothing to do with the forms of collecting more golden bananas essentially. Well, this is generally is the final world we can able to collect some more golden bananas with. So yeah, let's get to it with the forms of that familiar Donkey Kong pad by going through, I would classify for saying this is the last barrel blasting section. So relatively speaking, I highly suggest you're able to actually aim where the rings are, just to ensure it gives you a hint of where exactly you're about to go. So as a result though, I don't think there's any bananas to be located in this particular barrel blasting section, unlike any forms of how it does on the past worlds. So I think it should be all pretty swell if I have to say so for myself. So either way, that's as far as saying goes, and I somehow missed my shot. So it's been a very long while since I actually missed the actual shot, since, I would say ever since in Angry Aztec or something. Well, mind you about the fact that the last time we actually did the barrel blasting sections was actually in the forms of in Crystal Caves, so. But yeah, whenever you hear that particular sound, as you probably already noticed, then that's obviously representing the correct route to take. So, but either way, I'm pretty sure if you do somehow manage to able to complete this barrel blasting section, at least unlike any forms of how it does it on Fungi Forest, alongside with the forms of, I would say, what should I put it? Oh yeah, Crystal Caves. That thankfully there's no bonus barrel you can able to actually entering into. So if you go pass through the star, basically this will opens up the actual gate to the actual tree. However though, we're probably not going to go there just yet though, because we do need that specific upgrade in order to able to actually progress. So yeah, relatively speaking though, this place is going to be super huge, but honestly, this place is pretty straightforward, especially noticeable with all these different Kongs to able to actually switch with. Then honestly, about the fact the matter is though, thankfully, those numbered pads that we will stumble across into eventually, well, we've already stumbled across one of them so far, but as soon as we're able to actually find the rest of the forms of those other numbered pads, then as soon as you're able to actually activate every single one of them, then this world, thankfully, it's self-explanatory. Well, I usually say for this point, it's not one of my favorite worlds, but it's actually a very good world to able to actually just to, like, you know, explore and stuff like that. And this is where the game starts to get tremendously difficult, especially noticeable with these mini games comes into play, and you probably name the rest of it. So anyway, a few things I want to explain, and that is the fact that, well, today's day is, of course, is the 17th of February today, in this case in 2023 today. Now, you probably already noticed about the fact that ever since in yesterday, that we've already celebrated the 12-year anniversary of the Mexi Toys YouTube channel, and you probably already noticed I did my room tour. So, as a result, if you want to check it out, then you can. So, either way though, I highly recommend you're able to actually watch it, especially noticeable that you guys are very impressed with the forms of my room itself actually looks like. Despite there are some messy parts here and there, but honestly folks, it's just about the fact that I usually care for the capture card device. So Anyway, so this is where we meet up with Candy Kong for the final time, because we now have ourselves upgrade 2 for utilizing the musical instruments. And I believe you can only carry up to like 25 throughout, so yeah, that might be some self-explanatory moments here and there. And also, this is the last time we're going to be seeing that boss portal somehow, because, well, as I mentioned this before, this is the true final exploration type of world, because relatively speaking, no, well, you'll see why as soon as we're able to actually continue proceeding for this game. So, or to be more specifically, Creepy Castle itself. So, and right off the bat though, there's the Kasplat with Chunky Kong, so at least thankfully we did somehow start things off from here. So, anywho, so yeah, apart from the fact the matter is though, there are quite a few things I would like to mention, but I think I should probably save that until any moments later, because obviously, sometimes the certain sections of this world can feel a bit slightly darker in some areas, but either way though, I can assure you for this point about the fact the matter is though, this world might take a little bit longer than in forms of how it does it on the previous world so far. Mainly because, you know, as I said before, this place is super huge, so... But either way, I will definitely try my best to actually complete, you know, certain stuff in this world as quickly as possible, but either way though, things gets a little bit more relative at that point, so... Anywho though, so yeah, let's talk about the forms of today's discussion, and that the fact the matter is though, we've only got about a week left until Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe for the Nintendo Switch is going to be releasing, and I'm, you know, still very excited about that game, but recently, I've somehow pre-ordered Metroid Prime Remastered recently today. Specifically the physical version, because what I've noticed from the start though, is about the fact the matter is though, that, well, apparently though, certain reviews of the Switch version of Metroid Prime has already existed, and a lot of people seemed able to really enjoy the game so far. Especially you can now finally play the original Metroid Prime on the go, which is actually a really good sign. Especially because, you know, the Switch is doing super well. As far as we've already pointed things out, ever since your journey forms have been, well, countless amount of years. In fact, I'll talk about the forms of the actual, the Nintendo Switch sales, records so far. As in the forms of by the end of 2022, according to the forms of the actual article. So, but I'll get to that in a second, because, well, relatively speaking, I was originally able to pre-order The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, including Pikmin 4, but I think I should probably wait on that for a little while, just because, well, I'm most likely focusing on, you know, Kirby and Metroid from now on, so relatively speaking, though, I think so far we're actually getting ourselves a lot more excitement games coming out for this year so far. Well, relatively speaking, though, it's about the fact that, remember I mentioned this before, ever since on Wednesday, that for what I've watched the rest of the forms of that particular recent Nintendo Direct, I actually really enjoy it so far. I will say it's a massive step up from the likes of the forms of how it does it on, let's just say September Direct in 2022, because I don't know, looking back on that particular Direct right now, when it comes to September Nintendo Direct in 2022, it just felt a bit all over the place. Like, there are some good highlights for sure, like the actual announcement of Pikmin 4, which that's the reason why I'm finally able to give Pikmin a second chance. So relatively speaking, now I've got the rest of the series again. Well, except with the forms of the GameCube versions of Pikmin 1 and 2, as well as the Wii U version of Pikmin 3, because of the forms of the DLC stuff you can no longer get. So, but at the very least, I'm very appreciated able to actually, excuse me? How dare you knock me back? Anyway, but at least that's a good thing I managed able to get the Switch version of Pikmin 3 at the very least, for the sake of Pikmin 3 Deluxe. So relatively speaking, we are potentially able to get ourselves 2 Pikmin games on the Nintendo Switch. So, which is roughly the exact same amount as not only the GameCube, but also the Nintendo Wii, for the likes of the new Play Control series. Well, at least the only thing that the Wii U do somehow manage to got, which appears to be just Pikmin 3. Well, unless if you also want to count those short movies as well, which I've noticed right from the start though about the fact that those movies are no longer available on the actual Nintendo eShop from either the 3DS and the Wii U, because I'm pretty sure those short movies are already up on YouTube now, so... But either way, that's saying something, so... It feels like we've almost done collecting most of those bananas for Donkey Kong, because I'm pretty sure if as soon as we're able to keep on, you know, going up and up, I'm pretty sure we were able to actually get certain bananas for sure. But you have to be very careful on these platforms right here sometimes, because otherwise, if you dare fall off, you die instantly, so... Yeah, that was kind of my fault. But luckily though, about the fact that luckily if you do manage to activate those numbered pads, then you could able to continue where you left off. So at the very least, it's not so much stingy about this. So either way though, that might be saying something, so... Anywho, so yeah, in terms of the forms of other stuff I would like to mention, I was originally trying to mention about the forms of, well, more mentions on Mario Kart Tour again, because at this point in time, the exploration tour is going to be almost finished, so I'm not exactly sure what the next tour is going to be, but I'll talk more details about that at some point until next Monday for sure, once we're able to continue exploring through, you know what I mean, Creepy Castle and stuff like that, so either way. So, and it's also short things worth noting for is about the fact that I'm pretty certain about the fact that we've almost to the point where, until also during the forms of that particular moment where, forget it, I was gonna be thinking about the other day or something like that, but either way, that's saying something. Oh, relatively speaking though, is about the fact that, you remember when I mentioned this earlier, that I've already pre-ordered the physical copy of the game of Metroid Prime Remastered for the physical version. Now I think that's going to be on its way for about 2 weeks or so, so either way though, which is also roughly the same day as in the forms of the 6th year anniversary of the Nintendo Switch release, so yeah, that's actually something. So anyways, let's meet up with Funky Kong here, so just to ensure that we will be able to actually get the most useful upgrades in the game. Well, relatively speaking though, it might actually be very handy, and that's what appears to be this sniper mode, where basically though, if you somehow manage able to activate the actual first person view, and then basically though, the actual binoculars thing decides to show up, like it's just a simple black texture thing, and basically what that does is that this allows you to able to actually zoom in and zoom out with your aiming shots, which that will actually come in handy, specifically in this world, because if you miss out on the forms of that particular mechanical fish mission from the likes of the forms of Gloomy Galleon, well, that particular sniper mode will be alright, but it's just about the fact that the only drawback with that is though, is that it actually contains a lot of lag going on. So yeah, that's why usually I recommend going for the mechanical fish mission before you get the actual sniper upgrade, so just to ensure you don't need to worry about too much lag is going on. So, I mean, relatively speaking, the Wii U Virtual Console re-release version has no lag whatsoever, but either way though, I'm just warning you right now, if you ever played the original cartridge version of the game, well, you're just gonna have to able to actually just to like, well, deal with the mechanical fish thing, you know, from the start, rather than saving up for later. Well, I do know for a fact that a lot of people seem to have a lot of struggles with that mission, so because of the forms that, you know, timing shots is inevitable, so yeah, I guess that probably explains it, so... Alright, there we go, so we got some more bananas for Tiny Kong at the very least, so that should be all swell. But anyways, let's get into the forms of the actual main topic of the forms of today's video. Now this appears to be by the forms of, well, I've already mentioned about this before, ever since in a couple of parts ago of Donkey Kong 64, that basically though, recently the Nintendo Switch is now on to 122.55 million units sold, which it still looks very impressive, and it's now on the 3rd chart, or the 3rd, or should I say the top 3 of the forms of the best-selling game consoles of all time. So that's actually pretty cool and awesome at the same time, because everyone else seems to always enjoy the Nintendo Switch a lot, which is always good. So, in terms of the actual, the games themselves though, well, relatively speaking, like I mentioned this before, since about a couple of videos ago, that you notice about the fact that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is not going to give up on the actual sales numbers. So as far as I'm aware, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was now on 52 million copies sold. So yeah, I'm guessing it's probably because DLC is now a thing. So relatively speaking though, that actually boosted up the amount of sales numbers for that game, which is always impressive. So, and as far as Animal Crossing New Horizons are concerned, well, basically they've now got 41.59 million copies sold, so at least it's doing pretty well still. And as far as Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is concerned, well, it's now on to 30.44 million copies sold, so yeah, pretty cool and awesome at the same time as well. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is now on 29 million copies sold, and by that time, that Tears of the Kingdom was just around the corner, so relatively speaking, that certain gamers were able to get a chance to experience, you know, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild before they dive right into Tears of the Kingdom, so yeah, that's actually super awesome. And as far as Pokemon Sword and Shield is concerned, basically they've got 25.68 million copies sold, so pretty cool and everything, despite with the forms of some very rough graphical issues. So, and for Super Mario Odyssey was now on to 25.12 million copies sold, so at least Super Mario Odyssey is still doing very, very well. But there are some changes with the forms of number 7 and number 8 respectively, because number 7th place now goes to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, the most recent Pokemon installments right now, and so far they've got about 20.61 million copies sold, so despite there are some performance issues, so as a result, yeah, it's actually cool, just cool. And as far as Super Mario Party is concerned, it's now on to 8th place at the moment, and that game is now on to 18.79 million copies sold. So, at the very least, that's something. And as far as 10th place is concerned, well, basically, Ring Fit Adventure is actually on 15.22 million copies sold. So, yeah. And as far as number 10 is concerned, well, it looks like that Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu / Eevee editions was now on 15.07 million copies sold. So, yeah, looks like Pokemon is doing pretty dang well for its sales numbers as far as I'm concerned. So, either way, that's as far as I can try to describe about this at this point. Now, as far as New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe is concerned, well, they still have not giving up on the actual sales numbers on that game either. So, relatively speaking, New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe is now on 14.75 million copies sold, so that's actually pretty cool, I'm not gonna lie. And there's also another Pokemon game that is actually also doing very well, which is Pokemon Legends Arceus, and that's what it appears to be. It's now on 14.63 million copies sold. Now, as far as Luigi's Mansion 3 is concerned, it's now on 12.44 million copies sold, and I honestly have no idea why I keep dying for this point, because this is one of the point where the game starts to get a bit difficult, especially noticeable. There's a lot of bottomless pits all over the place. Well, some of them aren't so bad, but it's just about the fact that, well, the reason why I died so many times is because of that Kasplat I was going to go after, so... Anyway, and as far as Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury is concerned, well, I'm happy to report that that particular Switch port of the Wii U game is actually now on to 10.83 million copies sold, so that's a massive improvement. So, yeah, pretty cool, and I'm really hoping they're able to continue to support the game for its sales numbers. Well, the only game exception being is Super Mario 3D All-Stars, just because of the stupid limited time release. So, and I suppose they're probably not going to be able to bring out some brand new sealed copies of the game anymore. Well, as far as what I've double checked for the forms of the actual sales, or to be more specifically of the actual price count for Super Mario 3D All-Stars nowadays, whenever I looked up on Amazon for physical copies of the game, Jesus Louise, it's almost to the point that it's actually currently on 83 quid. So gee, no wonder why it's gonna get super ridiculously hard to get. Well, at least you can still able to get the game physically in secondhand stores, but as far as brand new is concerned, hell no. But at the very least, the good thing I did somehow got the actual compilation just before it just managed to discontinued. So, anywho, so the next game they actually listed for the actual best-selling games so far, and that's what appears to be Splatoon 3. And so far is actually on 10.13 million copies sold. So yeah, pretty cool and awesome at the same time. So, oh actually, before I get into more details onto this though, here we have Super Duper Simian Slam, which appears to be a much more of an advanced version of a ground pound move. So, you see those red switches, as you probably will come across into, and by the way, this is the final move in the game, so we pretty much learn every single move throughout the game. So, yeah, I apologize for that commentary, because a little bit still to that point, because I've almost got distracted by the forms of other stuff, so... And also, this place is filled to the brim with the forms of not only, oh my god, my A button doesn't jump! I suppose that should be alright, I guess, because after all, thankfully with those numbered pads, we were able to allow me to get back onto that progression point. So, anyway, next up is the forms of Mario Party Superstars, and it's almost at 10 million copies sold, while at the moment it's actually on 9.38 million copies sold. So, at the very least, Mario Party Superstars is actually doing very, very well. Certainly a lot more better than the forms of the top 100, that's for sure. Just because about the fact that that was actually the worst selling Mario Party games ever. Because, you know what I mean, it's entering onto its late lifespan for its 3DS's lifespan and stuff like that. So, I don't feel like talking about that again. The next game they did mention is Nintendo Switch Sports. And basically, that game is now on to 8.61 million copies sold, despite with the forms of some, well, despite the fact that I didn't seem able to get the game, after all to me though, clearly because about the fact that I'd much rather just play other games, I must be honest. Well, relatively speaking though, wow, that's the second time I somehow managed to get in there without needing to worry about the weird camera angles, so... And this bit does remind me of something, and that's what it appears to be. As you can tell, we need to get rid of those pesky flies in this particular trash bin, so... Or essentially like a garbage can or something like that, so... Yeah, basically though, it's about the fact that we need to get rid of those pesky flies, and then once you've done so, I believe the golden banana is now yours to obtain, so... At least I'm assuming so anyway, so... Yeah, this bit does kind of reminds me of one of those sections in Banjo-Tooie. Although, speaking of Banjo-Tooie though, I kind of believe by saying this, that this particular playthrough is going to be as much as long as the forms of how it does it. Well, what I meant to say is that this game is going to get much longer than the forms of how it does it on not only in Banjo-Kazooie, but also Banjo-Tooie most likely, because of the forms of how in fact you have to do the ridiculous amount of, you know, backtracking, and in addition to that though, it's just continuous amounts of, you know, constant Kong switching mechanic. So, pretty insane if you ask me. So, anyway, so the next game they did mention when it comes to the sales numbers is the forms of Kirby and the Forgotten Land. And so far, that game is now on to 6.12 million copies sold. In this case, the best-selling Kirby games ever right now. So, yeah, pretty happy about that, especially because, you know, that game is such a really fun time. So, as a result, I'm very happy about to hear that. So, and as far as Mario Strikers Battle League Football is concerned, well, it's actually currently on to 2.47 million copies sold. So, nothing much, but at least it does pretty decently. So, and next up is Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which is now on 1.81 million copies sold. Almost 2 million, so it's actually going pretty well. And finally we have Bayonetta 3, which at this point in time, I think Bayonetta 3 was actually the newest game they somehow listed so far. that it did somehow sell for about 1.04 million copies sold. Unfortunately, I haven't found the forms of Mario Plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope anywhere, but I will try to able to actually research on it to see what the actual sales numbers is actually at right now. So, yeah, pretty cool selection of games. They did manage to receive so many number of, you know, you get the idea. I apologize for my commentary, it's getting a bit slightly off today because, well, I've got nothing more else to add. So, oh yeah, speaking of the forms of the copies sold wise, recently Sonic Frontiers was actually on 2.9 million copies sold worldwide by the end of December of 2022. So it looks like Sonic Frontiers is actually doing very well here. So pretty cool, I might add. So in addition about the forms of those games are doing super well when it comes to sales numbers, for what I found out about the fact the matter is though, do you guys even remember when I mentioned this before, that thankfully Birdo is going to make its return in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe for its DLC waves? Apparently though, that there's going to be more returning characters are definitely coming on Booster Course Pass in the future. So when it gets to the point until Wave 5 and Wave 6, so relatively speaking though, I cannot wait to see what certain characters they'll brings us to the table when it comes to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. So, at least the fans are super happy about this, especially because we haven't had a single new playable character since, well, since when the deluxe version of Mario Kart 8 has first released on the Switch. You know what I mean with the forms of Inkling Girl and Inkling Boy. I think those are the only new playable characters they added in back then. In addition to the forms of some returning playable characters, which there are King Boo and Dry Bones and Bowser Jr. And heck, even especially noticeable with the gold variation of Mario, despite it's all cosmetic and stuff like that. So, but I highly doubt about the fact that they might add it in a new column of any sorts when it comes to the character selection screens or something. But either way though, I just realized that the homing ammo loves to able to actually aim at those specific switches as far as I can see. So yeah, pretty useful I might add. Especially noticeable, it's a good thing that we somehow managed to obtain that to begin with. But before I get into the forms of that bonus barrel up there, I think we need to take care of this balloon first, which we've already did. So basically, in order to get up there is that we need to once again inflate ourselves as a balloon and basically get onto this little, I would say an air current, and basically that actually lifts you upwards. So, well, assuming if you pretty much know exactly what to do. So in some cases though, let's go ahead and fly up and into the bonus barrel as we go. If I'm assuming to enter it, there we go. So let's see what minigame are we going to be playing. Oh no, not this minigame. Oh, why did you make a return here? Anyway, so here we have ourselves the returning minigame ever since in Frantic Factory, and that's what appears to be Beaver Bother. Oh boy, how do I explain about this minigame? Because whenever I did somehow manage to look back on this minigame now, on my original cartridge version of the game, I can totally see why a lot of people get a lot of frustration in this minigame, just because, well, the annoying thing about this minigame though, sometimes those beavers refuses to get into the actual hole. I'm not exactly sure because of the forms of the actual collision detection with all that, well, invisible wall or the invisible barrier from that particular hole. But not only do we have to go for this minigame once in this world, but I get the strong sense of feeling we might have to do it twice in this world. And oh god, that's gonna be a lot of tedium, especially because as you can tell, my first run through on this minigame didn't exactly go well enough. So you know what? I'll just go full right here and then just hopefully try again, because yeah, this minigame sucks. Welcome to Anyway. So the next thing I want to mention though is about the fact that, well, relatively speaking, there's actually some things it's just somehow showed up. Well, I'll get into more details about that once we get out of this misery of this minigame. But either way, once again you do need to able to insert like 15 beavers in the hole, but even then though, again, sometimes it works, sometimes it just doesn't, and because of that, I won't classify the saying by far, as far as I'm aware, this is by far my least favorite minigame in this entire game of Donkey Kong 64, next to Minecart Mayhem, just because of all that frustration involved, and it's just... it's not fun. It's definitely not fun with Beaver Bother, and I can totally see why a lot of people get rage quits on this godforsaken minigame, and you have to, like... well, if you really want to complete everything in the game, you have to do this, because otherwise, if you don't, you will essentially, well, just good luck. Well, thankfully, though, it only took me 2 attempts, so at least it's better than, like, say, attempt number 30 or something, because my god, attempt 30 will be a nightmare, so, and that's why I get able to hate the forms of that particular Beaver Bother minigame, so... oh well, no big deal. So, yeah, anyway, let's get to the forms of another topic for this point today, and that is about the fact that apparently, though, Disney is working on not 1, not 2, but 3 movie sequels, which there are Toy Story 5, Frozen 3, and Zootopia 2. And, well, I'm speechless, because, relatively speaking, though, I just can't even believe that Frozen is not going to give up anytime soon. So relatively speaking, I'm guessing because they really want money right now, after the events of the forms of how miserable the box office went for not only Lightyear, but also with, you know what I mean, Strange World as well. I think Strange World, whenever I seen the film, I just snort fast because, well, nothing in that particular film really interests me as much, so because of that, I've honestly have no idea why I somehow managed able to check that film out for myself, and yep, it just simply bored me, so no wonder why that was a miserable flop for its box office, so... anywho, so... yeah, anyway, relatively speaking though, about the fact that I just cannot even believe they're gonna be making Toy Story 5, well, at least as far as I'm aware, wow, that was a massive drop. Especially, I honestly have no idea what the heck I was going. But, at the very least though, luckily, as I said before, with those numbered pads, it will definitely help you, so... but we're not exactly sure when does Toy Story 5 or Frozen 3 and Zootopia 2 is going to be on a having its release date at that point. But I'm sure we'll be able to find out some more details about those kind of things until, well, you know what I mean, at some point in the future though. So either way, that's all I can really ask for, so... but anyways, I suppose I might as well give my final thoughts of the most recent Nintendo Direct, you know, with the forms of the first ever Nintendo Direct in 2023. I think is actually very good. Well, there are certain downsides for sure, which I'm sure enough that most people are already pointing things out, is that there's no new Mario games have been announced. No mainline Mario games or sports game, because I was expecting Mario Baseball to be somewhere around here, but apparently it doesn't, so... yeah, it's a bit of a bummer, especially noticeable. Well, I get it because they need to do a final finishing touches for the movie first, before they dive back into the actual video game format itself. So, yeah, I can totally see why that's there's nothing that much of Mario related anytime soon. And it's also worth noting for is about the fact that a lot of people seem to complain that there's no Pokemon games to be re-released on the actual Game Boy / Game Boy Color. Well, aside from the fact that we've already got one, well, coming up in the future anyway, which is of course Pokemon trading card game. But as far as mainstream Pokemon games are concerned, well, we haven't got any of them on the actual Switch online membership services yet. Like, no Generation 1, which is specifically Red, Blue, and Yellow Pikachu Edition, and the Japanese green version, and no Gold, no Silver, or Crystal for that matter. But I'm sure maybe they'll try to mention about it until, I don't know, the Pokemon Presents presentation that might able to show up by that time until by the end of this particular month coming up or something. But either way, though, we'll have to wait and see what happens in due time, so... and I suppose the last thing I want to mention about my only main gripe I have with the forms of Nintendo Direct is that, well, once again it mentions the COVID-19 message again, which is, you know, getting repetitive every once in a while because it waits for about, I would say 5 seconds or somewhat less than that but it's just about the fact that it's kind of annoying me sometimes. And in addition to that though, it just lacks any sort of charm that we pretty much used to in the past years. Like, I know for a fact that there's no Reggie or Shiwata Iwata anymore, because as far as I'm aware, because, you know, after the events of the past. But either way though, it might be difficult to explain, so as a result, at least it does its job, especially noticeable about the fact that, well, I've got nothing more to add. Now, in terms of the forms of other stuff I would possibly like to mention is that, well, relatively speaking, originally, I was expecting to try and able to download the demo version of Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe on the Switch, but then I think I'm also able to not download the demo this time around because, well, obviously I've already practiced the Wii version of the game on my spare time just before I go back into the forms of the game again, except now on the Nintendo Switch. So relatively speaking, you know, I'm just so looking forward to able to get the you know, a remake of my favorite Kirby games of all time. So, yeah, pretty cool to able to have that in there. So anyways though, as far as you probably already see about the fact that there's going to be a couple of times though we have to able to go through a serious amount of those different rooms depending on what Kongs you're going to be using. So as a result, that's what the red switches comes into play. So basically though, well, relatively speaking though, first off we need to take care of these enemies first before we're able to do something in this particular room. So either way, that's as far as saying goes, I think that's as far as I can talk about. Although, there's actually another thing. That barrel seems familiar, as well as these candles also very familiar objects for this point. So you know what that means? It's time to able to lit up those candles again. So I'm pretty sure this time around, I'm pretty sure we need to lit up for about 4 of them this time. So relatively speaking though, thankfully there's no time limits here and now, just like the forms of how it does in Crystal Caves. So even though before I'm able to actually like you know, lit up some more candles, I'm pretty sure I need to grab some more banana bunches as far as I'm usually concerned with this stuff, so. But either way, once you lit up all the candles, oh, there's only 3, just like the forms of how it does in Crystal Caves. So, I keep thinking about the forms of that another screen transition, but oh well, no big deal. But at the very least, we can able to actually access to another you know, bonus game. But before I do that, I need to pop this particular banana balloon, which is actually not as easy as it looks when you're trying to utilize the actual the rocket barrels. But as soon as you get enough good shots like I just did, then you do have it okay enough. So anyways, let's get in here and let's see what minigame are we playing next. Oh god, speaking of the devil, Minecart Mayhem. Except, this one is actually a lot harder, because now we need to worry about is these 2 TNT barrel cards. So, and once again, no music at the beginning. Well, at the very least, we got music now, so seriously, it's kind of weird. So, anyway, and I think, relatively speaking, thankfully, this is actually the final time we're going to be playing this minigame, because thank god, that minigame can get pretty frustrating at times, especially because, well, it actually encourages you to able to utilize a lot of memorization, especially because you have to rely on the forms of what the AI does, or the artificial intelligence for the actual TNT barrels is going to come straight towards you and stuff. But either way, my best advice for this point is that, well, you have to able to slow down until, like, just to ensure that you will be playing safe or something. But it's just about the fact that sometimes this minigame can get pretty much insanely difficult, so. But either way, we're basically done, because obviously we didn't get a single hit, so there we go. Oh, and also I forgot to mention about this as well, about the fact that, yeah, it's a bit of a shame that ever since in yesterday, that, yeah, rest in peace, Crash on the Run, because, relatively speaking, the service is now ended. In addition, about the fact that the game is no longer being playable, so, yeah, rest in peace, Crash on the Run, as the actual smartphone game based off from Crash Bandicoot. So, yeah, it's a bit of a shame, but I can possibly understand about the fact the matter is, though, because of how the fact that, well, despite, you know, that game reaches for about 60 million downloads, which is actually pretty good. But, you know, it's a bit of a shame. That game has to go. So, yeah, it's a pretty sad story indeed. But, At the very least, though, we're able to expect to be hyped about the forms of, you know, Crash Team Rumble at some point in the future in 2023, but we don't know exactly for sure when is it going to be releasing, so either way, that's saying something. So anyways, let's use this little monkey porch right here, thanks to Tiny Kong, so just to ensure that we were able to actually access to another section. And right off the bat, we got ourselves another banana medal, so pretty cool and pretty swell at the same time, and something tells me there's a banana fairy just hidden around here somewhere, so hopefully I'm also able to get a good photo shot right there. Well, it might not be possible just around here, but if we walk around slightly to here, oh, there's another bunch of banana in there too. Anyway, I suppose the last thing I want to mention is that, well, recently they bring us into ourselves not 1, but 4 brand new posters for the Super Mario Bros. Movie, and you know what I mean, I'm very excited about that particular movie still. Especially noticeable because, my lord, the amount of visuals they've got, it looks so stunning and gorgeous, so... But either way, I'm so excited about that film, like, as you probably already know what that's going to be represented with, so... But either way, we somehow managed able to get the banana fairy right there for capturing a picture of successfully after a couple of attempts later. But either way though, that might be saying something, so... But, yeah, I think that's as far as I can usually just to, well, discuss at that point, especially because, well, I've already mentioned quite a few bits and bobs here and there, and thankfully, for that particular recent Nintendo Direct, like I've already established earlier, thankfully, no farm games. Yay! Because, my god, from last time though, they are so obsessed with the forms of so many farming simulation games from last time, so... Hopefully we're able to continue to do that at some point, but that can wait. That can possibly wait. So, yeah, suffice to say, I think we should probably end things off at this point right here, so join me next time for more of Let's Play of Donkey Kong 64, is that we're going to be continuing exploring through Creepy Castle and able to get a chance to experience this little tiny door that we can only fit with mini monkey form. So I'll see you guys on Monday. Later, fellas.